I wear these silly baseball caps all the time just for fun, but if you read them on the side, it says, be a blessing and you'll be blessed is what it says underneath. And that's my whole philosophy of life, be a blessing. And I think, I know one of my sons, Josh, I remember when he became a Christian, I'm of the Christian faith personally, but I'm quite broad in my approach. I'm not restrictive in my thinking, and I don't believe everyone should be what I believe to believe. In other words, if you have a spiritual belief, I hope you follow it, because whatever it is, if you don't follow it, you're probably not going to be happy. And I'm not a proselyte of people to have to be or think a certain way. But I remember my son, he became Christian, and when people find God in whatever way they find it, they often think no one else has that. It's only their way, And he became very, very rules driven about this is how it is and that's how it is. And I was quite concerned. But rather than trying to push him to be a certain way, I told my wife, Sage, I said, honey, we were in Fiji, and I said, I've got a few days. I said, I'm going to go on a fast for the next 4 days, maybe 4 or 5 days, just drink juice. And I'm going to read the whole Bible from cover to cover. And I said, because I've never read it that way. I've never done total immersion like I talked about. I read the whole Bible, and literally about 18 hours a day. And I was struck at the end by an overall pattern. So I went to my son. He was being very devout and very right, wrong, good, bad. And anytime you make things extreme, I think it creates problems, right? And I didn't try and make him wrong in any way. I said, God's this, and God's means that, and this is what Christ did, and this is how it is. And I said, Josh, I said, I have one question for you. I said, I just read the entire Bible from cover to cover, and his jaw dropped open. I said, I'm dead serious. And Sage looked at me and she goes, he did it. I said, one thing that comes out of it, I read the Old Testament, and God seems like a selfish bastard who's mean and vindictive. And I read the New Testament, and God seems incredibly loving and supportive of all. So I said, if that's true, does God grow? And there's this long pause. He felt like he was being trapped. Like, you're trying to trap me. And I said, I'm not trying to trap you. I'm asking an honest question. Everything in the universe either grows or dies. So does God grow? If the Bible is a real reflection of God, and there are many other books that are a reflection of being inspired by the divine, but let's say that's the book, does God grow? Because it sure looks like it in the book, And if that's true, the only reason I'm bringing that up is I know what you're fearing is that you can't have absolute certainty about how things are, which is what everybody wants, but you could have faith. And I said, he goes, well, God knows everything. God knows what you're going to do before you're going to do, how it's going to be. And he gave me this rattle. And I said, okay, I believe all that. But the question is, does God grow? And he couldn't give me an answer either way because he felt like he was being trapped in it. But eventually he loosened up. And I can say today he's much more balanced in that area. He's not trying to make everybody else believe what he believes. But I think the universe grows. I think God grows. And I think it's our job to grow.